Hey guys, my name's Will Sanders, and today we're going to be part 2 of the Evo videos. Enzo, my German Shepherd, is back there. We're at the park. It's our lunchtime break. We didn't go this morning because it was raining, so I have no problem with him getting wet and muddy on occasion, but it's not fun giving him a bath. Well, it's kind of fun, but it's not something you want to do all the time. Plus, it's not good for him. I actually have a video of that, which you can watch. It was a couple months ago. Anyways, so this is part 2 of a 3-part series on the differences of the US market Evos. So the last video, I compared the differences of the 03, 4, and 5 Evo VIIIs in the US. This video is going to focus on the Evo IX. As I'm sure you probably know, the Evo IX was only 1 year. Oh, we're going to the bathroom. Time out. And we're back. Okay, as you know, the Evo IX was only a 1 model year car. However, Mitsubishi did manage to squeeze in 5 different models in that 1 year. So we are going to discuss all 5 of those and their differences. Oh, there goes my notes. Really, my outline. And unlike the last video, we're also going to discuss briefly kind of more of a high-level difference between the 8s and the 9s. There was no 7 in the US, so I didn't do that on the last video, but I do want to do that this time. And, you know, we're basically going to cover the differences in the models and the differences of the 8 and the 9 when it comes to the exterior, the interior, and any type of performance differences that you can expect. Keep in mind that the 8s and the 9s are very similar, and they're both several years old now. A lot of times you're going to end up replacing parts, modifying parts, so a lot of the differences may not matter as much today as they did when they were new, but it's still important to know about them. Okay, one final note before we get into the details. If you haven't realized, a lot of my content focuses around Evos. I've owned an Evo 8, 9, and 10. I currently own an RS, I've owned a GSR, and I've owned an MR. So I've got a pretty good spectrum of experience when it comes to these cars. I've got some ideas for some videos that I want to do. However, if you guys watching have any specific questions or things you want to know, definitely let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to try to make a video on it. Also, if you've got any specific questions regarding the Evo IX, or really the 8s and the 10s for that matter as well, you can obviously leave those comments below. If you're looking at any Evos, or just any questions at all, you know, definitely just let me know. I try to answer all of them. So I appreciate you guys watching. Like if that's your thing, and let's get into it. As I mentioned prior, there were 5 different trims of the Evo IX. You have the RS, the GSR, and the MR. Those are your 3 primary trims. And then towards the end of the model run, you had the SE editions, the special editions. So that really wouldn't be SE edition, that would just be the SE models. Anyways, so you had what was essentially a GSR SE, although I don't think it was technically called a GSR SE. And then you had the MR SE. And we'll talk about those at the end, just like Mitsubishi did. So the RS and the GSR and the MR were carryovers from 05, which was the first year in the US that we had all 3 models. The RS is the stripped down version, so you're going to have, you know, everything's going to be manual locks, manual mirrors, windows, no ABS, gutted interior, gutted sound deadening material. The GSR is going to be the kind of, oh, that's mine, drop that, is going to be kind of the main trim. It's, you know, kind of what you would expect out of a modern car, all your power amenities. It's going to have the carbon wing and all that, you know, it's just kind of the normal trim. And then you're going to have the MR, which is stands for Mitsubishi Racing. And that's going to be your top model. It's going to have the 6-speed and, you know, a little bit better suspension and some other interior bits that we'll talk to in more detail. The SEs were just appearance packages built on the GSR and the MR. So there's no real performance differences, minus technically, I guess you could say, the aluminum roof. But we'll talk about that more in a moment. I mean, if he's friendly and wants to.
She is most of the time. I mean, I think that she would be with that dog.
He loves other dogs.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes they don't like the fact that he's twice their size and kind of rests his head on them.
My old dog with me was big and I don't want to say mean. He was a people dog, not a dog.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Sorry about that. As we go through this video, obviously I don't own an Evo IX anymore, so I'm going to insert a lot of pictures to give you guys kind of a visual indicator. Also some comparisons with my car, which I'll put in here to show you the difference between the 8s and the 9s. But we're going to focus on the exterior first. All the Evo IXs got the new squared off front bumper, which you'll see here. Personally, from a styling point, I don't know, I think I like the 8s better. You know, those little kind of like fog light looking spots at the bottom, those are apparently meant to cool the intercooler piping, so that way, you know, it's just forcing air right into them right before they come in and out of the intercooler. If you add an aftermarket intercooler, a lot of times the piping's going to get moved anyway, so it doesn't do much once you change that. Other differences is going to be the wheels. They're still inky wheels on the GSR and the RS. It's still BBS wheels on the MR. The special editions get BBS wheels, which I'm still salty about to this day. I'll get more on that in a moment. And but they are different styles, and I'll show the differences here: the 8 inkies versus the 9, and the 8 BBS versus the 9. This way, buddy. Now, moving around to the back of the car. In the US, it's the same bumper for the 8s and the 9s. I know a lot of the JDM markets and the UK markets, or just Europe markets, the 8 and 9 bumpers are different. We don't get those. I think it had mostly to do with the crash beam. My car actually has the JDM bumper, which I'll show you. I elected to modify my crash beam because there's no way I was not going to have a crash beam. So that's really it for the differences between the exterior 8 and 9s. It's just the front bumper and the different style wheels. All right, next we're going to talk about the interior differences, and for that I'm actually going to do this from inside my Evo. I'm going to give you a little bit more of a visual because it doesn't change as much. All right, so we're back in the Evo here to talk about the interior differences between the 8s and the 9s. We're also going to talk about the RS, GSR, MR, and the special edition versions. So real quick, the main differences between the RS, the GSR, and the MRs, and the special editions, all that good stuff, is the RS obviously isn't going to have any of the power stuff like this. Even though this is an Evo VIII, this all pretty much looks identical. You know, you're not going to have center consoles, you're not going to have an e-brake handle, your window wiper stock is going to be pretty basic. So there's be a lot of things like that. You're not going to have visors on your window, on your mirrors. Or I should say mirrors on your visors. That makes more sense. But you're not going to have any of that stuff. What you doing, buddy? The GSR obviously is going to retain all that stuff. Then you're going to have the MR, which is going to have, you know, some carbon fiber like around the gear shift, around the parking brake. And then the special editions are going to have red stitching. So like all this stitching here is going to be red on the seats. Everything in here is going to be red. These are Evo IX seats. They're not, they came out of a GSR. Typically you'd have the blue seats in the Evo VIII. I still have them. I just prefer the 9 seats. And that kind of brings me to the biggest selling point of the 9, other than, you know, sentimental reasons, is you buy the 9 because it had the better interior. And honestly, a lot of it you can just do yourself. I mean, I've got the 9 seats. One that's a little bit harder to do is the steering wheel on the 9s. This is all black, doesn't matter which model. All of this is black. It looks much better, much cleaner. And then this piece here is going to be fake carbon fiber. On the GSRs, it is going to be more of a shiny versus this like plain matte. I'm sorry, on the RSs it's going to be a shiny versus this plain matte. And then the GSRs, the MRs, the special editions, they're all going to have the fake carbon fiber. And that's pretty much it for the differences. You know, the floor mats say Evo IX versus Evo VIII, unless it's a special edition, at which point it says SE. If it's RS, it says RS. If it's an MR, it says MR. Really, it comes down to you swap the seats. The steering wheel would be a little bit harder, and then the carbon fiber dash trim, which isn't that hard, and you can't tell the difference between sitting in an 8 and a 9, at least in the US. You know, we didn't get any of the automatic climate control that like Europe and Japan had and things like that. So all this stuff is pretty much status quo. For more of the specific differences between the RS, the GSR, and the MR, you can watch my previous video detailing the Evo VIII because it all holds true for this video. I'm not going to redo it again. I am still going to do a detailed RS video because I think it's worth it. Plus, I have an Evo RS. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So we're going to cut back to the park. And lastly, we're going to talk about the performance differences. So unofficially, the 05 Evo 8s are called the Evo 8.5 because you had the addition of the ACD that came in. You also had the slightly larger hot side on the turbo. So when the 9s came out, they maintained obviously the ACD. They maintained the larger hot side. They also got a different turbo altogether, really, or a slightly different, you know, still a 16G, but it was a little bit more efficient turbo. So then really the biggest difference you see with the 9 is the inclusion of MyVec. So that's Mitsubishi's variable valve timing. In the US anyways, I'm pretty sure this is true for everywhere, but you only see it on the one model year, which is the Evo 9. It's on the Evo X, but the Evo X uses the 4B11 motor versus the 4G63. So when it comes to performance modifications, you essentially have one model year that has the MyVec 4G63. It does make internal mods matter when choosing them. And it's been a long time since I looked up any records, but I feel like the Evo 8s in the US still hold most of the records versus the 9. There's just more of them out there, and you know, there was more time spent developing parts when the cars were still active. Therefore, if your goal is to modify a lot, the Evo 8 is generally the better way to go versus the 9. Plus you're going to pay more for a 9 anyways, and a lot of its benefits are going to become irrelevant to you. On a related topic of performance, other mods that are not internal are pretty much going to be the same. So anything that bolts onto an Evo 8 will bolt onto an Evo 9. That includes body parts, or panels I should say. Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy. Oh, good boy. Watch your ears. Oh, good boy. All right, so we are back home. I'm gonna get Enzo some water, probably eat lunch myself, and then we will finish up this video here. All right, buddy? You wanna get some water? Yeah, get some water. Okay, we are back. Enzo's got a little rest. I got some food. Back at the house here, obviously, with the Evo. All right, one final thing before we move on to the SE editions and regarding the performance is that if it isn't already apparent, a lot of the performance differences weren't substantial. So if you're looking to buy an Evo to do a lot of modding to or track it or anything like that, there's really not a whole lot of benefit to buying a 9 versus an 8. There's going to be more aftermarket support for the 8 versus the 9. Now all the bolt-ons, exhaust, all that good stuff, all that's going to be the same either one, but internal motor components, camshafts, ECU timing, things like that are going to be different. So just keep that in mind. As I've said before, the Evo 9 is really only for the crazies that have sentimental reasoning to buy a 9, like myself, who bought one new. Should have never. Let's talk about the SE editions. What you essentially have is the Evo 9 SE, which is a GSR with an aluminum roof and red stitching seats, HIDs, SE specific front lip. The wheels are, it comes with the BBS wheels, which are, they call them like diamond black, but it's silver is what it is. So that's what the special edition is. Then what you had is Mitsubishi make the MRs, where you could get the SE package, which essentially gave you the things that the MR didn't already have. The MR already has an aluminum roof. The MR already has HIDs. So what it got you was red stitching on the seats, the SE front lip, and the diamond black, aka silver BBS wheels. So those are going to be your 2 special editions. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that extremely upset me, because when I bought my 9 GSR, the real reason I wanted an MR was I like the BBS wheels, I like the HIDs. It was like those little tweaks there, and then suddenly, like a month after I got my GSR, the SEs appeared on the lots, and they were probably already announced. I just didn't know they were coming. It still hurts though, because I could have gotten all the stuff I wanted for like another $1,000 versus the difference between an MR and a GSR at the time, which was like $4. So, and you didn't have to get the 6-speed glass transmission, which was the best part of it. It's all the MR stuff you want, none of what you don't want, basically. So that's pretty much it for the SEs. You know, it's a decent upgrade for the GSR, but for the MR, it's really just some appearance things. To be honest, when I think about buying a 9 again, I mostly focus on trying to buy my old one back, to be honest. I know where it's at. However, I have given thought to maybe getting just a 9 in general, and the SE never really hits my radar. I think a lot of it is too many people are crazy about them, and if all things were created equal, I probably would spend a little bit more than a GSR to get an SE. What I'm not going to do is spend close to what an MR costs, because then it's like, well, I might as well just get the MR. Yeah, it's got the transmission I hate, but that's okay. I'll just swap that out and be done with it. And then I get really just the car I want at that point from the beginning, which is an MR. So that's pretty much it. I mean, the 9 isn't that different from the 8s, especially the 05 8s. And especially if you factor in buying one in today's world versus 10 years ago. You know, I've said it several times, and I'll say it again. There's really no reason to buy a 9. You can get 95% of what a 9 has out of a 2005 8 if you really want. And if you're going for big power anyways, it really just doesn't matter. Now, maybe if you're doing some track stuff and, you know, you want the, I don't know, maybe there's some rules about performance mods or something, some class rules or something. But other than that, I really couldn't see a reason. You know, it's pretty much going to wrap up this second video on the Evo 9s. Still got the third one to do, which is going to be on the Evo X. That's probably going to take me a couple days to get because it does span 2008 to 15, so it's a much bigger range. There's not a whole lot of changes, but there's a lot of little evolutionary changes, so I'll definitely get that going. I appreciate you guys watching the videos. If you have anything specific that you want answered, comment below. If you've got any specific videos, topics that you'd like me to cover, you can also leave those below. Other than that, you know, like if that's your thing, please subscribe to see the rest of the Evo videos that are coming. And I do appreciate you guys. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up. Right, buddy? Right? It's too hot. I need to go inside, huh? Say bye-bye. Say bye-bye.